The story, everyone. Welcome back to Get a Games Fan TV. How's the form? How are we all getting on? So here we go then. Knockout football in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship is officially here this weekend. Now, after the round of games we just had and after the group stages and everything else, and especially the final round of games, it may as well have been knockout. I mean, every game felt like it was on the line. Every team had something to play for other than Armagh. Even at that, they very much wanted to beat Galway. But now we are officially in knockout territory, and it's always one of my favorite times of the year. Is the preliminary round. You have the quarterfinals as well. And look, I'm not going to lie, the preliminary round draw, it's a little bit underwhelming, isn't it? Like, you were looking at the draw and thinking, we could get some absolutely titanic games. Like Kerry and Galway maybe could have been playing each other in Killarney. Could have Donegal, Galway. In the end, Galway got down, and the way the kind of rest of the draw went, it meant that probably there's 4 clear favourites. But even with that, look, if this championship has taught us anything, is that not everything goes according to plan. And I do have a feeling this weekend that there will be a shock. There will be a surprise somewhere. And I think it could happen. Look, it is football. And without question, this has been the best championship season in my lifetime. Certainly, I can't remember one better. In all honesty, it's been absolutely outrageous. Some of the standards of the games. And obviously, the new rules have been absolutely key in doing that. But look, we're here to preview and predict the 4 games in the preliminary round. We are going to preview the 2 Tailteann Cup semi-finals and the 2 games in the Hurling Championship as well. 2 quarter-finals to preview there. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. We'll start with Kerry versus Cavan. And look, when this draw came out, the first game that was actually, the first tie that was actually drawn, it was a bit like, it was a bit of a sigh, wasn't it? I mean, you were kind of hoping Kerry would get Galway or something like that. The fact that it'd be absolutely titanic and everything else. Like, it's a strange one, isn't it? You feel a bit sorry for Cavan in some ways. They've been battered by Donegal, they've been battered by Tyrone, and now they have, after all that, I've seen that meme in Simpsons where he's already dead, and poor Cavan now have to go all the way to Killarney at 3:30 on a Saturday as well. I mean, Jesus, that's some trek for the supporters, some trek for the fans as well. But look, ultimately, they beat Mayo, so that's the reason why they're here. They are a good team. Look, they've had 2 very bad results. It's kind of unusual to see them get beat so badly, and that does worry me a little bit, especially after beating Mayo. You think confidence would be there and everything else, and I don't think they're as poor as, an 11-point defeat to Tyrone, a 19-point defeat to Donegal. I don't think they're as poor as that. But look, there's no way Kerry don't win this game. Kerry will bounce back. They'll come flying out of traps here after losing to Meath. Could you imagine Kerry losing to Meath and Cavan in the space of a week? I mean, that would be absolutely insane. No way Kerry lose this game. And you know what? I'm so confident Kerry win this game. If they don't, I will wear a full Cavan kit for at least a week. I'm very, very confident Kerry will win this game. I think it'll be very comfortable as well. I'm going to go 10 points. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Cavan can put up a fight. But look, Kerry might be missing players. Maybe there won't be Paddy Clifford there. I expect Paul Gainey maybe to come back in. David Clifford will unquestionably start. Maybe Shawnee O'Shea might be back as well. But Kerry will respond. I've seen Paul Gainey as well sort of mentioning that the Kerry fans, really kind of galvanising the Kerry fans in a recent interview. So, I think Kerry, they need their supporters to show up. And to be fair, I think their team will show up this weekend. 10-point win. Got Dublin versus Cork. And you know what? A couple of years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, when Dublin, and funny enough, we had a couple of games against Cork, over the last kind of 5-6 years. We actually have played them quite a lot. We played them in the Super 8s, I remember, in 2019. We played them in the Championship, I think, in 2022 it might have been, or maybe 23. We've played Cork quite a lot over the last couple of years. The league game in 23 is actually the one I'm thinking of. We actually played them in the Championship in 22. And you know what? Even when we were at our absolutely brilliant best, Cork would actually always give us a bit of a game. And they're one of them teams that, like, as I've said numerous times before, when they're playing bigger teams, they tend to raise their game. Do you know what I mean? Like, Cork can go out and get beaten very comfortably by Meath and then go out and beat Roscommon or, put up a fight to Kerry. That's just kind of how Cork football has been over the past couple of years. And without question, going to Croke Park, I do expect them to give Dublin a bit of a game. And this is one of the games I look at and think it's absolutely not a formality. I've seen a lot of people, Dublin fans and even neutrals as well, saying that this game is going to be an absolute walk in the park for Dublin. Look, Dublin just aren't that team anymore. We're not that team anymore where we just roll over and beat teams by 15 to 20 points or, 10, 15 points. Don't see that happening. I think this will be a tough game. I think we will have enough, though, and I will say that Killy McGuinness was outstanding the last day around midfield, and I fancy him to kind of kick on with that performance. Sean Bugler back to his best. Conor O'Callaghan's obviously back. Lee Gannon's back as well. Dublin, like first time against Derry, it's like we look a little bit more settled now. If we can keep this starting 15 playing regularly, then look, we have a chance of maybe doing something this year. I do still think an All-Ireland is reaching a little bit. I think a semi-final probably is the max that we can hope for. Don't have a lot of options off the bench. Look, Cork will cause problems. Their forwards can be a bit inconsistent at times. Brian Hurley, when he's at it, is absolutely brilliant, but a lot of the times this year he hasn't been at it. And they have players who can hurt us, and they will cause us problems. But I do think overall, Dublin, we should have enough, surely, to come through this. I think in Croke Park as well, it is a big factor. It should stand to us, I think. I'm going to go with a 5-point win. You've got Down versus Galway. And you know what? Out of all the games that's happening this weekend, this is the one that feels like it could be. There could maybe be a shock on the cards here. And I think there's a few reasons for it. I think firstly, Down have been very, very good this year. They've had a very, very good season. And they've looked very good in the groups. They put it up to Monaghan. They went toe-to-toe with them. They have some phenomenal footballers across their team. I think Conor Laverty is doing a great job. Playing at home in Newry as well. Like, that's a tough, place for Galway to go to, in my opinion. And it is a Galway side that, albeit that they beat Armagh, they have looked fragile at times this year. And a part of me wonders, like, if Armagh had to win that game versus Galway or needed something from it, would Galway have gotten something? I'm not entirely sure if they would have. I know Armagh, look, they went for it, and I think they absolutely wanted to beat Galway, to be fair, and they wanted to knock them out of the championship, and rightly so. Galway, when they get going, are a serious team. But look, it was a big win for Galway. Peter Cook's back on the side. Shane Walsh looking back to his best. Interesting enough, I even seen Porrick Joyce's post-match comments, and he was even saying it's a long time coming. It feels like there's a lot of pressure on Shane Walsh a lot of the time from internally within the county. And I feel like a lot of the time that's a bit unfair. I'm not entirely sure why as well, but I think they should have enough. The attacking talent, the attacking players that they have. I think some of the players in these groups we haven't seen the best of. I don't think we've seen the best of Paul Conroy. I think Matthew Tierney's been quiet at times. Defensively, they don't look as solid. There is a chance there for Down. It just will be interesting to see, when you look at the standard of teams that Down have played this year, playing in Division 2 and obviously in the groups as well. They haven't really faced too many teams of the level of a Galway. They faced Donegal in the Ulster semi-finals, and they actually played quite well that day, in my opinion. But I think Galway should have enough here. And I'm going to go with a 3-point win. And then you've got Donegal versus Louth. Jim McGuinness's comments post-match were a little bit mad, weren't they, and everything else. And, I suppose Jim McGuinness and Donegal will be happy to know they can probably stay in their own bed before this game. Although I did hear there's a big rally going on apparently around Donegal. So not too sure about Louth. They're probably going to have to stay in a hotel, maybe outside of Donegal. It'll be interesting to see if McGuinness or Ger Brennan references that. But you know what? It's going to be an interesting one. Donegal and Louth played each other last year in the quarterfinals, and I thought Louth actually equipped themselves quite well in that game, even if they lost, I think, by 7 or 8 points in the end. But look, I think this is another game where surely Donegal win this, and surely they win it comfortably. Look, one thing I would say about Donegal is that they've been on the go for a long time. They've had a lot of intense games this year, from the Ulster Championship, they're playing 4 games in Ulster, all the way, having to beat Derry, having to beat Monaghan, Down, Armagh. That is not an easy way to win an Ulster title. Going to extra time, you then have to play Tyrone in the group stages. You then play Cavan, then you play Mayo. It's been tough for Donegal, and you wonder if all these games, all these intense matches, will catch up with them a little bit. And that's why I nearly feel like Jim McGuinness was nearly actually a little bit sort of getting a bit edgy, because it's been an intense year. And if they can go all the way from this point to win an All-Ireland, it will be absolutely some goal. One of the hardest fought All-Ireland wins I think you'll ever see, in my opinion. Look, they'll win this game. They'll be far too strong. Look, Louth will fight. They will battle. We know some of their players and how much they can fight, in Conor Grimes and Samuel Roy, Craig Lennon. And Ger Brennan, without question, will have this Louth team absolutely set up perfectly to try and get something from this. But I think Donegal overall should be too strong. So I'm going to go with a 6-point win. Moving on to the Tailteann Cup semi-finals, you've got Limerick versus Wiklo taking place in Croke Park. I did see, some murmurings about Limerick fans not being too happy with the fact that they obviously have to go to Croke Park on Saturday to play Dublin, and they have to go to Croke Park to play Wiklo on Sunday. In fairness, as much as I've been critical of the schedule and in the GAA at times, it was set in stone that the 2 semi-finals were always going to be on a Sunday. For the Tailteann Cup, RTE did a deal and everything else, and they have the games live on RTE, and I think that's good exposure for the Tailteann Cup. So I don't think we should be taking that away. And Limerick wanted the game actually in Croke Park on Saturday as well against Dublin. They did push for it. So, I think as much as some fans are unhappy about that, I think maybe they should look a little bit more internally, in my opinion. But look, for Limerick football, what a season it's been for Wiklo as well. Absolutely incredible stuff. To beat Westmeath, incredible. Obviously, Limerick have beaten Westmeath as well. So I think both of these two started the year out in Division 4. Wiklo were probably the team people looked more so actually towards promotion rather than Limerick. Limerick have completely turned the tide under Jimmy Lee, and much like Jimmy's brother in Billy Lee, who done something very similar in Limerick and taken them up the divisions, I think Jimmy Lee is on his way to doing that. And look, Limerick were a Division 2 team a couple of years ago. They didn't just magically end up in there. Like, there was a reason why they got to play a game against Dublin in the Gaelic grounds in the league, and it was because they have a great team, and they lost a couple of those players over the last couple of seasons with the changes in management and everything else. They've got them back now. Ian Corbett, Danny Neville, Emmett Richter, Josh Ryan, all these lads are now back in the team, and you're seeing the difference for Limerick. But look, Wiklo, what a story it's been. And can you imagine, like, they're just 2 wins away potentially from playing Sam Maguire next year, when they're also playing in Division 4. Like that, it also sounds a bit scary, and I'd also be a bit worried for them, to be honest with you. But if they go and do it, they've absolutely earned it. But I think Limerick should still have enough here. I think Limerick should. What I would say about Limerick is they've kind of gone about their business quietly this year, but they've been so consistent, like winning the Division 4 title, winning every game in their group, and then coming up here and, winning their quarter final versus Wexford. So Limerick are competitors. Limerick are absolutely contenders for this tournament, and I think they will beat Wiklo. I'm going to go with a 3-point win. You've got Kildare versus Fermanagh. It feels like it should be like a straightforward-ish win for Kildare. They beat Fermanagh very, very comfortably, I remember, in the league, and they should have enough to win this game as well. Clear favourites, you'd imagine, for this tournament, although I do think Limerick can cause them 1 or 2 issues potentially in the final. And look, Wiklo, to be fair, actually nearly beat them in the championship last season, so we'll see what happens there. But for Kildare, they will have to, overcome the test of Fermanagh, who have done very well in the end to get to this point after a very disappointing start to Carlow. But I think Kildare look as if they've turned the tide, I think, under Brian Flanagan. And I think, with Ryan Sinky now on the team, with Daniel Flynn back, with some of the outstanding players they have from 1 to 15, I think they should have enough. And I think they will win this game. I'm going to say 4-point win. 2 games to preview then in the Hurling Championship. It's Dublin versus Limerick, and it's Tipperary versus Galway. Speaking of Dublin versus Limerick, first of all, look, as much as I would love to see Dublin win this game, and bizarrely enough, the last time that these two teams met in the championship, I think it was like 2017 or 2016, we actually did beat Limerick, bizarrely. Kind of incredible what's happened since then. But look, Limerick will win this very, very comfortably. There's a reason why they wanted this game in Croke Park, and it was a reason why they were very happy to play this game in Croke Park. It's unusual that, it's, Dublin are playing in their own county, but it would have probably have actually suited us to play maybe in like a Thurles or something like that. Look, either way, Limerick are winning this. Limerick are winning comfortably. You could play this game on Mars. You could play it over where the Club World Cup is going on. Limerick will win the game very, very handily. We just don't have a chance here. Like, Limerick are just miles above Dublin right now. I'm worried a little bit that it could be an absolute hiding. Look, sometimes Dublin can raise their game for this. Maybe Limerick will be thinking a little bit ahead to Kilkenny in a couple of weeks' time, and maybe they might take their eye off it. But Limerick are actually coming into this game on the back of 2 defeats, like with the loss to Cork on penalties. Yes, it was penalties. The defeat to Clare as well. So Limerick will want to bounce back. I've seen that bizarre video actually as well of the Limerick team post the Munster final. John Coyley dancing on top of a car. Lads trying to hit slitters at cows. I mean, what on earth was going on there? I shouldn't really laugh, to be fair. The poor cows and the poor car. Maybe it was his own car. I don't really know, but a little bit bizarre there. I'm all for lads having fun. I don't know if they were actually trying to hit the slitters at the cows, to be fair. But a little bit mad there. I suppose maybe they were just a little bit wound up after losing the Cork. But they'll win this game, and they won't have to be hitting slitters and cows in Dublin. Anyway, that's certainly not going to happen. So Limerick will win the game comfortably enough. I'm going to go with a 12-point win. And Galway versus Tipp is the one game that of the Hurling, one of the 2 games of the Hurling that has the potential to be close. But honestly, I think Tipperary are going to be too good here. I just don't really rate this Galway side. They're too one-dimensional. very reliant on Cathal Mannion so far this year. Haven't seen the best of Conor Whelan. Their team just hasn't evolved at all, and they have a lot of like players who might do a little bit of something, like Brian Concannon might do a little something here and there, but they haven't evolved at all over the last couple of years. I don't think. They look stuck, and the reason why they got to the Leinster final is because the rest of Leinster isn't really that good. Do you know what I mean? I don't think Wexford are that good. I think Dublin are okay, but nowhere near the levels of a team like Tipperary is an example. And Liam Cahill, he's got the buy-in with Tipperary. The fans are back on side. You've got young players coming through like Darren McCarthy. I think they'll do enough here. I'm going to go with a 5-point win for Tipp. But anyway, that's going to be the end of the video. Do let me know your predictions in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of some of this weekend's All-Ireland football and senior hurling championship action. Looking forward to the games. Hopefully we look, hopefully in the football and maybe even Dublin Limerick as well, they are entertaining, and hopefully this championship lives up to how good of a championship it's been. But what I would say though is, if the 4 teams go through from these preliminary rounds that we expect to go through, that I've predicted to go through, what quarterfinals we're going to have. Like, it's going to be, every game is going to be blockbuster. And I absolutely can't wait for that. But yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button and subscribe if you could. And until the next one, see you all later.